to the channel. Today we're going to be having a look at another Rewind review. On the table we have got the Toys R Us exclusive Jubilee Build-A-Figure Wave. It's Toys R Us exclusive from August 2014. The actual wave comprised of a few figures and one Build-A-Figure. So in total, when they was actually stocked and they were put on shelves, the case consisted of 2 Wolverines, 2 Strifes, 2 Cyclops, 1 Magneto, 1 Storm, and obviously the Build-A-Figure was Jubilee. Obviously I don't have the boxes as I'm an out-of-box display collector, but to have this wave I feel very privileged because it is pretty hard to come by. I have spent a small fortune on acquiring the pieces over the years. As we know, we've got a couple of re-releases recently on certain figures. Wolverine's been replaced by the more animated series adept Tiger Stripe Wolverine. We've got the Jubilee figure, which at one point was going for over £100. She's just been recently replaced by the new release, the Jim Lee version Jubilee from the Caliban wave. Magneto, he's just been replaced this week with the Family Matters Magneto. We'll go over his articulation shortly. And Storm, I think she will always hold a place in the actual collection due to the costume design. As we do know, we're getting the Jim Lee Storm finally in white out of the new vintage wave. Strife, I don't think we're going to get a replacement for him, so he's going to hold up well. And then obviously the uncanny version of Cyclops, which is probably my most favourite version of Cyclops. In the actual comics, complex storyline, really headstrong character, and always does what he believes is right. So basically, as you can imagine, over the years I've had these for a number of years, probably 2 or 3 years now. There has been a couple of modifications to a couple of the figures, like say for instance Wolverine. The actual head itself didn't come with a masked version, it came with the unmasked version of Wolverine. This guy now, or this version of this figure, can now be found on eBay for around about £13–14. Back in the day when I bought him on the card, I had him shipped from the States. It actually cost me around about 50 quid. And now he sits in a photo box, as I have nowhere to display him as of yet on my shelf. As like I said, he's been overtaken by Tiger Stripe. We have had a slight modification to the figure where we replaced his claws with some metal claws. So we got these from a guy over in the States, Kendry Customs. I'll put a link in the description below. And I believe Cannabeams have just started doing their own version of the metal claws as well. I have got a set for every Wolverine I have. I do think I'm going to have to invest in more, as obviously we've got more Wolverines coming out with the Love Triangle 3-pack and the cowboy version of Wolverine, and no doubt there's going to be the X-Force Wolverine, and then there's another one in the vintage where I can't think off the top of my head the actual name of that one, but he's got a black eye mask. So got another 3 Wolverines to kit out with the metal claws, so I'm going to need at least another 3 sets, and then probably even more than that by the end of the year that it's out. As you can see, the actual Wolverine itself did come with the hood extension, which was also available in the vintage wave Wolverine. So on the vintage carded Wolverine, the brown suit Wolverine, you did get this piece, and you did get an unmasked head sculpt. In my opinion, it's the best unmasked head sculpt of Logan that we have had. I'm not too keen on the one that we got from the Sentinel pack, where he's gurning, he's growling. We did get a patch version of Wolverine. It's not specifically the Logan version, but obviously it is an unmasked head of Wolverine. And then I'm trying to think who else we've actually got where there's another gurning. We got the biker Wolverine, again he had that weird look on his face. In fact, that's a patch version as well. So yeah, we got 2 heads in that one where he's gaining and one where he's actual patch, neither of which I care too fondly for. But this head sculpt I am really a big fan of. Again, with this head it has been slightly modified, and it was been drilled to fit the Tiger Stripe body. Don't know if the camera's picking that up. As you can see, this ball joint here was one of the smaller ones, so obviously we've had to drill that out in order to fit on the other Wolverines itself. But again, if we just have a look at the mass piece, nice little addition. In my opinion, for every Wolverine going forward where he's in a costume, we should get one of these and an unmasked head. It's always good to have a couple of display options. So yeah, that was the Wolverine. He didn't actually come with any Build-A-Figure pieces in the actual card itself. Like I say, you can pick this guy up now on eBay, both this colour and the X-Force colour Wolverine for around about 13 quid. If you've not got a Wolverine, or you're struggling to find a Tiger Stripe Wolverine, which was released with the Apocalypse Wave, I'd recommend picking this guy up. His articulation is pretty good. My only gripe with him is that he's not in line 5'3" tall Wolverine. Obviously, when this came out, Jackman was still pretty much the Wolverine of the cinema films, so they've made him a slightly bit taller, not too tall, because as you can see where he shines next to Cyclops, he is slightly smaller, but obviously we like a nice short hairy beast when it comes to Wolverine. That takes me on to the next figure in the wave, Cyclops. Like I said, this is my personal favourite rendition of Cyclops. I just like the way the character went with the arc. It was a bit of an arsehole. Obviously broke away, started his own school, teamed up with Magneto, was in the love affair with Emma Frost at the time, went to war with the Inhumans and the Avengers. It was actually in this costume where Cyclops met his untimely death due to the Terrigen Mist. And then Emma Frost used her mind tricks to portray an image of Cyclops into everybody she saw fit, in terms of what he was up to still. So it was Emma Frost who was basically pulling the strings with a projected image of Cyclops into all the minds. But by that point, he was all wrinkly and dead on the table. I'll pop a picture up here of Cyclops' death. If you've not had a chance to read that comic, X-Men vs. Inhumans, it's well worth picking up. Similar with X-Men vs. Avengers as well. Really good storyline. As you can see, I just love this colour. We did get a Magneto in the Apocalypse Wave, which matched this, and we are about to get the new Emma Frost, which is from this range of X-Men as well. So that display or that team is building up quite nicely. The actual Cyclops itself, I do believe he still holds up quite well when it comes to selling on, as he is a desirable figure. Comes with a nice little belt, loads of pouches. The one accessory he did come with at the time when he was packaged up was a Jubilee right arm. So this one over here, the head and the effects come together on Jubilee. I'll jump onto it next. But yeah, just an overall really nice figure. I am actually trialling this at the minute, this body mold, to incorporate a 3D printed Phoenix 5 armour to sit over the top. I think it's a really good base body. Ideally, I don't want to be using this one going forward for the Phoenix 5 Cyclops, as I have done a head, which I'll post on Instagram at some point, the accessory pack in terms of what will be able to be bought or purchased through Marvel Legends UK.co.uk's website. But yeah, all in all, a really nice figure. I'm not going to go through the articulation, as we know it's a standard buck body. Stands up relatively well, unlike Storm, and is just a really nice piece to add to your X-Men collection, as I think this is a quite iconic or quite rememberable story or character from the comics, where obviously he went a little bit crazy and a little bit nuts. I do call him the terrorist Cyclops, as he was deemed to be a little bit left wing, right wing, insane when it came to decision making. But I do love this character. Like I said, one of my favourite versions of Cyclops. Next, we're going to move on to this witch, the Weather Witch, who just does not like to stand. This is still going for a pretty amount online. The price dropped significantly when we got the release of Jubilee, but this actual Storm itself is still holding quite firmly online for a pretty penny. No doubt when the new Jubilee version of Storm drops, we'll start to see this lady appear left, right and centre on groups and eBay as people want to upgrade their actual collection. Mohawk Storm, beautiful face sculpt. My one gripe with this is that she didn't come with the earrings, the lightning earrings. I can't remember in the comics if she actually had lightning earrings at this point. But this was the first, in my opinion, first proper rendition of Storm that we've got and had since the new one that we got in the Apocalypse wave, which was Punk Storm. Comes with material cape, if that's what you want to call it. Quite quirky in the way it's attached to the figure and the body. Goes up into the actual back chest piece area, as you can see. Just disappears under there. It's hooked under that ball joint that sits in there while the body's clamped down on top. And we get a couple of plastic rings to hold the wings cape in place. Nice articulation, really good paint job. Like I said, the only flaw with this figure is that she just does not want to stand up. At some point I am going to be changing these heels out as they are too small to support the figure, which means she'll lose some height, but at the same time she will be able to stand up like a normal fig. As we can see on the Jubilee ones, those feet are much better when it comes to standing a figure. Especially, and I don't know if it's just my Storm, but the knee joints on my Storm do feel a little bit gummy. It could be the warm weather that we're having at the minute or the room that it's kept into. But 9 times out of 10, she's already on a flight stand, the poles, with a different head sculpt on. I have got a custom head for Storm, where the Mohawk isn't on. It's basically more flowing hair, with the earrings in, etc. But usually she is within a flight stand or a flight pose, showcasing her powers within the actual display itself. So yeah, this figure, even though she will be replaced on my shelf with the new Jim Lee version, there still is a spot for her on the Uncanny X-Men shelf as well, alongside Cyclops and Magneto. Just because I think it would be a shame to put her in a fodder box. I don't like to sell on my X-Men figures, and she is a really nice design as well. So that is Storm. And Storm, when she was released on card, she came with the Jubilee body, other than the arms and head. In fact, we'll move straight into that review. Jubilee, she came in 4 pieces, so the head was 1 piece, along with the effects, and then we had 2 arm pieces. This one here, like we said, came with Cyclops. This arm here came with Magneto, and then the whole of the body, which we don't see anymore, from toe to neck. All that was actually in the same box as Storm, so we know from history that Hasbro can actually pack potentially 2 6-inch figures in one box. But yeah, if we just take these off. So Jubilee, if we have a look at the older head sculpt of Jubilee, one noticeable difference is that these glasses do not move from the top of the head. In my opinion, this is where the new Jubilee head sculpt kind of lets itself down. We have got 2 head sculpts in the box, one blowing bubbles, one standard face sculpt, but the actual glasses are stuck to Jubilee's face and cannot be positioned into this area here. For me, if we'd have had a blowing bubbles Jubilee with a generic head sculpt behind it, these glasses ideally would have been glued to the top of Jubilee's head rather than her eyes, just as a more relaxed look. I think that would have been a lot better. The coat is a nice pliable plastic. Can move around. We've seen this on a number of figures now, like the Monica Rambeau. Single jointed elbow on Jubilee. Again, really small hands. Both sides, one open, one fisted. Decent movement on the coat as well. She's done in a solid black, other than a little zipper here. And this version of Jubilee was actually taken from the comics again when she was in a vampire state. I don't know if anybody's seen or read that story. It is a little bit weird. where she ends up losing her powers, and then she gets all sexified after being bit by a vampire. It's quite an interesting story, to be fair, as X-Men stories always are. But yeah, this Jubilee held its position on my X-Men shelf for a number of years, prior to being recently replaced with the recent release from the Caliban wave. Now she sits in the Uncanny X-Men section, next to Cyclops and Wolverine. So yeah, even though she was fetching in a stupid amount of money at one point, she's probably worth about £30 now, maybe even less. You can get her on the KO market as well. She goes for between £20 and £35 dependent, but not really highly sought after anymore with the release of the more recent Jubilee. Jumping on to my next one, Strife. This guy is a really beastly, meaty figure. I actually really like this figure in terms of the way it looks. Hasbro did a really good job on recreating the clone of Cable, because that's what he is. He's a clone of Cable. In terms of aesthetics, add-ons, like I said, he's just a monster of a figure. Comes with a really geeky, quirky sword. It's not quite the size I think he would carry in the comics. I don't know if they'd misscaled it or what, but something the size of maybe Magic Sword would have been more appropriate. This is just a little sword, has a little bit of decor on it, and doesn't really have anywhere to store it on the figure. What I've done previously is kind of tucked it into his belt line, but then what we find after a certain amount of time is that the sword itself starts to warp. So he's displayed on the shelf without a sword, more of a open gripping hand state of affairs. As you can see, the head sculpt is beautiful. Yellow eyes, nice grinning jaw. You couldn't tell it was Cable underneath there, but it is. Kate is a solid plastic. Doesn't really move. I'd say this was the only negative gripe of the actual cape itself. Whilst it does bend on the sides, I'm still trying to get any kind of flowing motion from the cape itself. It's not happening. I've thought a couple of times of maybe replacing this with a cloth cape, but then it will devalue the figure, just in case anything did come along where I maybe have to sell the actual figure itself. God forbid. But yeah, all in all, that's the only negative part of the actual figure itself. As you can see, it's quite spiky, it's quite a thorny figure. Nice silver on the armour, and then we've got like a teal silver. This colour we've seen before on a Thor from the Terrax wave, so it's a similar colour that's been used. And then we've got some weird Strife nipples going on. Not too sure what this area is for here. They're quite heavily articulated, but hindered by that chest piece, which is going to be my main gripe when it comes to designing the Phoenix 5 Cyclops armour, that once it's on there it is going to hinder the articulation slightly. So even though we can get the arms out pretty far, we can't really move it up any further than that. Even though he has got a double jointed elbow, he can because of the actual gloves, it can only move a certain area within a certain area. If you've got a bicep shoulder, that's good. Then obviously for the legs they do kick out, as this piece doesn't hinder the leg movement, and the armour pieces on the side of the actual legs itself don't hinder the articulation from where the hip joint is. So yeah, all in all, really nice figure. I'm still holding up to this day. As of yet, they've not planned a re-release for him, so he's nice and safe when it comes to the display cabinet. And then finally we've got the OG original Hasbro Magneto. We did have one from Toy Biz, which still holds up really well. However, this Magneto has since been replaced by the new Family Matters 3-pack Magneto. Quite a lot of positives with this Magneto, but also a few negatives as well. The actual design of it is perfect with the way it looks. over the new Family Matters Magneto, we have got a lot of shading going on this actual figure. The only gripes to this figure is that it had an unusual say wrist swivel, but it's not. It's more of a forearm stroke wrist swivel. There's no movement in the actual hand itself. This is all one piece. So if you turn the hand this way, all that moves up. You can't move or hinge the actual hand itself, as that's all one piece. Similarly with the opposite side, the fist and the forearm piece are all one piece. I don't know if Hasbro was experimenting with new ways of articulating the figures, but obviously with the new one that we've got, where the forearm is usually one sculpt, accompanied by a collar or a cuff that goes over the forearm itself, and then we have plug-in hands, which allows us to hinge at the wrist. Yeah, it was just a weird design. The actual face itself isn't too bad. I think personally on this one, the helmet fits the face better, unlike the Family Matters one where it's a little bit eggy, a little bit too tall. There is a member within the community that's shared, I can't remember who it was, who shared a how-to link on maybe better in proportioning the helmet itself on the new Magneto figure. Again, the hips are done on a ball joint, so we've got that really awkward, you know, move and twist movement that I'm not really a big fan on in order to move Magneto's legs. We have got articulated feet, which we all know and love, which is the rocker and hinge. And then obviously we've got the boots, which are very similar to the ones that we've just got on the Family Matters pack. The cape is a softer plastic than what was used for Strife's cape, but it is the same cape that's basically been used on the Family Matters Magneto. Nothing different there other than maybe at the back where we've got that one plug. So on the Family Matters one, we've got an additional piece just underneath this plug here, which basically gives the effect of the cape to basically maybe like it's wafting in the wind. It's quite a difficult cape to actually get back in place with just the way that it's all bent and moulded. I'll have to do it off camera. But yeah, standard 6-inch figure. Magneto, again, he held his place on my shelf for a number of years, since been replaced this weekend by the new release. Shame really, because again, this guy was fetching up to maybe £60 to £70 on a single carded release, now worth absolutely nothing, maybe about 20 quid at most because of the new release. So even though it's great that we're seeing that the Hasbros are doing the more releases of most wanted figures, re-releasing figures that they've done previously, is driving the price down of the old collection figures that have stood the test of time in people's displays for a number of years, only to then be wiped out by a redo or a rehash, which has sent the prices plummeting. But yeah, that's basically my review of the Jubilee Build-A-Figure Wave, which was a Toys R Us Wave exclusive back in 2014. Like I said, it consisted of a few figures: Storm, Strife, Wolverine, Cyclops, and then you got the Build-A-Figure Jubilee as well. So I hope that's been insightful for yourselves when it comes to adding to your collection of what to buy, what not to buy, what to use in the meantime. Comment in the description below as to what you want us to review next. We've got a Fing Fang Foom review lined up. We've got an Apocalypse, Sentinel Build-A-Figure, both new and old. We've got all sorts of stuff coming up, so I ideally want to be doing one of these reviews every day or every couple of days at least. I'll be uploading this video today, which is Thursday, and from what I hear, the new Black Emma Frost is in stores as of Friday, so we'll be looking to get that review up for you first thing on Saturday as well. So if you like the channel, like, share, subscribe, all that usual stuff. We are going to be starting to run competitions shortly as well on YouTube, action figure giveaways like we do over on the group and on Instagram as well. Yeah, so I look forward to hearing from you in the comments below, and see you to the next one. Bye.